Thank you for listening to Mobility Redefined, brought to you by Modaxo. For more insights and information, please visit mobilityredefined.com. That is mobilityredefined.com. Welcome to the edition of Mobility Redefined. This morning, we are recording this session from UITP Global Public Transport Summit taking place here in Hamburg. And I have a special guest, Andreas Ekström, with us. Andreas is an author and digital futurist. This time, we are not coming to you with an expert or a voice from the transport sector, but we will listen the perspective of someone, a digital futurist, about the future of our life, our cities, how we move, and different things that can have an impact on the future, the way that we will live in our cities. Andreas, welcome, and thanks for joining me this morning.
Oh, thank you. Great pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Andreas. Andreas, it was a great already morning that we had together with you, that you were talking at the Modaxo breakfast session that was being organized at the UITP Public Transport Summit. And I think that we are recording this as well just to share your opinion with our broader public transport community, mobility community. And you talk about organic intelligence, the irreplaceable power of human judgment. How can leaders in tech-heavy fields keep that human layer alive?
I think it's important to understand a few basic things about AI because it's easy to get very impressed with what a large language model can do, and it can do very impressive things. Still, when it comes to employing a person, when it comes to interacting and making a social workplace function, building a team, identify key strengths and weaknesses among your staff members, none of that can be done today, even remotely, by an AI. So the training and the cultivation of a human being is still going to be such a majorly important thing for anybody who's in a leadership position. How do you create a team where it's okay to fail? How do you create a team where initiative is appreciated? How do you create a team where human judgment will look at the results of an AI and say, you know what, this was a great tool. It did 80% of the work, but here are the things I'm going to change to make it even better. Understanding, which is key, that AI is not a miracle, but it will help us with some of the boring heavy lifting, the first set of analysis before you actually apply human expertise on top. Some things like that.
I think it's a great way to move on this one. And when we listen to you, we can say that the future sneaks in slowly, then arrives all at once.
It does. It's a good way.
What changes do you think are quietly reshaping how we live and move today?
We've already been wrong about that in some interesting ways because of the pandemic, right? We saw all of a sudden we had to not see each other. We had to not move. We had to build our home studios and our Skype and Zoom and Teams rooms. And we had to learn all these skills. Now, what we learned from that was that we are social beings. We love to hang out. It's way more fun to be here with you in Hamburg today, actually meeting you, standing next to you to talk about these things. We could have done this from your studio and mine.
You're right.
But the feeling and the energy of two people getting together, that's key for who we are.
That's irreplaceable.
It's irreplaceable.
That's irreplaceable.
So I was thinking that post-pandemic, I would stop traveling all around the world to educate and keynote and do workshops and all the stuff that I do. I thought I'll be in my home studio and that's going to be all great. I'm going to get to see my kids more. But it turned out that the social factor was stronger than I or anybody else anticipated. I do very little digital remote work today. I do. Every so often there will be somebody who says, can you do a 30-minute keynote from your studio with beautiful images and sound? Yes, I can do that for you. But the general feel is that, no, we want to get together. So we're going to have to continue just like we did before the pandemic and making these solutions more affordable, more efficient. I do think that transportation, and this is me speaking from a citizen perspective, I'm not an expert in your field, but I do think that market solutions will never completely cover the need of a nation. I'm from Sweden. We're 11 million people in a very large space for 11 million people. There's no way that every railroad in Sweden is going to make a profit. It's just not possible. But then you have to politically decide that the people who live in Luleå or Östersund are as much worth as the people living in the capital city. You have to accept that we have a train line that doesn't make a profit everywhere, but we do keep it together so that the very profitable lines can subsidize a little bit of the other lines. And why do we do it? For political reasons. Because we believe that's a service to the citizens, no matter where the citizens live. That's not a business decision. That's a political decision, and it costs money. So we have to rally around that idea as people. We have to say, you know what, this is a good idea. Let's do it. We can't everybody drive a car everywhere. That's just not going to work.
It's a social decision, huh?
It's a political decision. And we should be less afraid of that. You and I are citizens. We can use our voice. We can say something. We can vote for something. We can do these things to build a society that we want. And letting a company loose to just build whatever it finds to be profitable is great for getting stuff done sometimes. But covering the world in transportation in an affordable and sustainable and reasonable and efficient manner, it has to be a hybrid. It has to be politics and companies together.
And Andreas, you often say every algorithm is an opinion.
I do say that, yes.
For people designing public transport tech, journey apps, dispatch platforms, what does this mean in practice?
I think that when you sit down and do this work, you are going to be an expert already. You don't take anybody who's really good at making ice cream and ask them to make a public transport system. That's not how that works. You're going to have an expertise. Now, expertise is 98% good. Because 98 expertise will make you know your stuff, you have the experience, you know the terminology, you know how to explain things. Now, the 2% that aren't good is that you will have a difficult time the longer you work to see things with fresh eyes. So when you then are an expert and you design an algorithm, I know for a fact that most commuters travel between 6:30 and 8:30. So I'm gonna, but then wait, I come from the outside. I don't know that already. I can assume it, but I don't know it. I will say, I think the future is going to be about the flexibility of work. I think you need to design the system for what it's going to potentially be in 5 years, not from what you, from your 20 years experience, already know that it is. That's a bias. And that's not in the algorithm, but it's in the person writing the algorithm, of course. And there are so many examples of this in every, I don't know, you're right-handed or left-handed? You're right-handed?
Right.
You're right-handed. So am I. We're a privileged majority. Now, just get a pair of scissors. Many scissors are unusable for somebody who's left-handed. Sometimes they have thought of making the holders equal, so you can just use them like right or left. But many scissors are unusable for somebody who's a lefty. That's bias. That's technical bias. That's a limitation. That's an opinion in the algorithm of the scissors that only right-handed people should be using it. And if you look closely, there's stuff like that almost everywhere. And we need to gradually try to do away with it. But it's difficult because it's in us.
And maybe one other thing which I'm wondering from you, Andreas, is that we saw this also this morning when you were speaking to the wider audience. And I see this clearly when I was listening to your YouTube videos. You are very good at the storytelling.
Thank you.
And there's one thing in the mobility industry that I think that people can learn from you in terms of the storytelling when they are communicating with the people, public. What advice would you give to transport leaders trying to explain complex transformations to the public, like moving on-demand models, changing different decisions? So what could be your advice to them, how to better use the storytelling on this one?
There's in every marketing or whatever, there's an analytical process going on within the company. I'm from the newspaper industry originally. I used to be a full-time news reporter. We would use fictional characters in our mind. Who is a typical reader? Let's say it's a woman. She's 38. She's got 2 kids. And then what will she need? And we would try to go around that persona of a person. And then we would make a story for ourselves about this person. What might she need to be able to imagine what kind of journalism she would be using? And how could we be of service to her? That is a pretty good idea to do the analytical work for anybody. So I think the transport section should do that too. Go out there, work journalistically, and find your real travelers in the community where you are active. Go out there and recruit families, commuters, regular people to be on your social media channels. Allow them to be frustrated, have them make jokes, have them be real and humanistic to explain the reality of the end user. Less about technological or political or infrastructural differences and more about the people. Whenever I go on the Swedish rail system, Statens järnvägar, SJ, and I do have an annual train pass, so I travel a lot because of my work, and I'm a fan. Whenever something doesn't work, sometimes the train company will say it's because of the other company that maintains the tracks. Now, this might be true, but I didn't buy the ticket from the people maintaining the tracks. I don't care. I bought the ticket from the guys running the train. They need to deal with that and take the full responsibility, and then they can yell behind closed curtains at the infrastructure if they want to. But all I want to hear is that we've got you, the train's not running, but we're going to get you a bus, or we're putting you in a taxi, or whatever we need to do. But they are the only company involved in this that should be customer-centric. So I want it to be human. That's all I'm saying.
And I have a last question to you before we close. If you were designing a future city, so not the tech, maybe you might be first thinking about the tech now, but if not the tech, but the values behind it, what would be your starting point in terms of the values of the future of the city?
It's going to be very difficult to maintain a living city as long as we insist on buying almost everything retail online, because a living city consists of more than coffee. But it's difficult today in many towns to just walk out on the street and get a new screwdriver or get a frying pan or even get some particular clothes. Only very big cities can maintain that. The biggest value of the future city is that it's social, because we're building a way with contact between people. You go into a grocery store, you go beep yourself. You know, when you have the cashier, you go, "How are you today?" "I'm all good. How are you?" "Thank you very much. That's $4.50. All right, have a good day." That's good for us. That's good for human beings to have that. Not a lonely people, not a single person household. That's the human interaction.
That's what public transport makes a lot as well.
That's what exactly.
There's 1.3 billion trips every day happening by public transport in the world. And that means 1.3 billion interactions like this.
You are absolutely right. And also one more thing, make it illegal to use your freaking speaker on your phone. Don't take speakerphone calls. Don't listen to a clip on the bus. That makes me a grumpy old man. And I think every transportation company in the world, as they do the welcoming, they say there's no smoking on board. Welcome today. Today's shuttle is going to take you to Munich. Also, please always use a headset when you use your phone. Just make that a part of it. Just change that culture, because it's getting crazy.
Andreas, linked to this one, because you have been in several countries as a keynote speaker.
Well over 30.
What is the most surprising thing that you have seen in a city, public space, that made you think this is the future?
I do love in Estonia, when you come to
neighbor to you,
neighbor to us, when you come to Tallinn, local transport is free if you're a citizen, and it's €1, very cheap if you're not a citizen. What a wonderful way to go about it and differentiate like that. Free public transportation does have upsides and downsides, which I'm sure you've talked about and thought about a lot. But making it affordable is certainly a good thing. And don't be afraid to have it differentiated. You're a tourist. You're going to be charged more as you come in. And I think that's fine. You're a junior, you pay less. You're a senior, you pay less. All that stuff. I love that differentiated system of Tallinn. Just to mention one of many things that comes to mind.
Thank you so much, Andreas, for joining me for this special edition of Mobility Redefined podcast. It was a pleasure hosting you.
My pleasure.
Is there anything else you would like to add before we go?
Well, I mean, since we can't take questions from the audience today, how about I just mention this? I'm on LinkedIn, as most people. And if you feel that you heard something in our conversation that you'd like to comment on or correct me on or just ask a question, please reach out. It's a part of today's service. Shoot me a line on LinkedIn and I'll talk to you there.
That's great. Please, our listeners, you can always reach to Andreas Ekström from the LinkedIn. And you can ask your questions to Andreas directly. Thank you so much for joining us today at Mobility Redefined.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andreas. Thank you for listening to Mobility Redefined, brought to you by Modaxo. For more insights, visit our website at mobilityredefined.com or follow us on LinkedIn. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite app to stay updated with our latest episodes. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you enjoyed the conversation.